Hello and welcome to my very first 2023 NFL mock draft. This mock draft will be 2 rounds with trades. Let's hop right into it. First pick, Carolina Panthers after trading up, select Bryce Young. I think he is easily the best quarterback in this draft class, and I think the Carolina Panthers will realize that after months of scouting. I think he has the highest floor and highest ceiling out of any quarterback in this class, and then they just get their franchise guy. Next up, Houston Texans. I don't think they go quarterback with this pick. If Bryce Young is off the board, I have them taking Will Anderson, getting that centerpiece of their defense. D'Amico Ryans has always had that dominant edge rusher, even back in San Francisco. And I think that it is a safer option to get your defensive centerpiece now and go into next year. They're not going to be very good. They're going to be in contention for Caleb Williams or Drake May and get your franchise quarterback next year. Next up, I think the Arizona Cardinals, with Will Anderson off the board, are looking to trade down, and I have them trading down with the Indianapolis Colts. It's just it's trading up just one pick, but I think it would be smart for the Colts to send like a second round pick next year just to ensure that they get the quarterback they want, which will be CJ Stroud. I think, as I said, they're just trading up one spot. I think that just ensures that they don't get jumped by a team like Tennessee or Las Vegas or Atlanta or any other team looking to trade up for CJ Stroud. I The Colts will finally get their franchise quarterback in CJ Stroud. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals. I will have them taking Devin Witherspoon. I am very high on the four best corners in this draft class. I believe Devin Witherspoon is the second best defender in this draft class. They need anything they can get on defense. They have a terrible defense right now. I think Devin Witherspoon is the best man coverage, man-to-man corner in this draft class, and I think he can just be a lockdown, reliable corner on that defense. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks are going to add Christian Gonzalez to that defense. Big dude, insane athlete. Him and Tyreek Woolen will make one of the best corner duos in the league. Again, I am very high on those two corners and on all four of these top corners. Next up, I have the Detroit Lions taking Anthony Richardson, quarterback of the future for the Detroit Lions. He's a generational athlete, big dude, but he is an underdeveloped passer. I think having him sit behind Jared Goff for 2, maybe even 3 years will benefit him a ton. And the Lions extend they get their franchise quarterback pretty much. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders drafting Will Levis. He has a strong arm, very smart player, sneaky athlete, big dude. But again, he has some accuracy issues. I think sitting behind Jimmy G for maybe half the year, maybe even the whole year, will benefit him a ton, and the Raiders get their franchise quarterback. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons will be taking Tyree Wilson. They left this edge spot open throughout free agency for a reason. I think they're aiming for a guy like Tyree Wilson to fall to them. And Tyree Wilson is just a big dude, strong power rusher, real pocket pusher, and I think he will just fill a big need that Falcons have at edge rusher. Next up is the Chicago Bears. They're going to draft the best player in this draft class before off the field issues, Jalen Carter. This front seven was one of the worst front sevens in NFL history last year. They shirt up the linebacker spot. I think adding Jalen Carter to this D line will give them a huge boost on their defense, helping out Justin Fields as much as they can, even if it's not on the offense. Next up, the Eagles. I think they look to trade down here, and they're going to trade down with the New York Jets, if I can find it. With the New York Jets, I think the Jets need to ensure that they get one of the top tackles in this class. The best tackle in this class is who they're going to get, Paris Johnson Jr. But I think no matter who their franchise quarterback of the future is, whether it be Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, they find somebody later, they have to be protected. And I think Paris Johnson can be that franchise tackle. Next up, the Tennessee Titans are going to grab Nolan Smith out of Georgia. He is an insane athlete, a great scheme fit for this Titans defense, and he will be that final piece to an amazing pass rush in Tennessee. Back up on the board again is the Houston Texans, and they will take Peter Skoronski. He is a very versatile offensive lineman, and he will be a great protector for the quarterback of the future, whoever that is next year for the Houston Texans. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is kind of a luxury pick, but he is the best player in this draft class, Bijan Robinson. The Eagles are very good at setting up one-on-one matchups in the run game with one-on-one with your running back versus a linebacker or safety. And Bijan Robinson virtually makes the first guy miss every single run. He is the best running back since Saquon, possibly even better than Saquon Barkley. He will be that missing piece to make this Eagles offense one of the greatest running offenses in NFL history. Next up, the New England Patriots will draft Deonte Banks. He is insanely good in press coverage, and he is the best zone coverage corner in this entire draft class. He ran every zone coverage, every coverage type in the book at Maryland, and he will be a great piece to add to this secondary and a guy that Bill Belichick will just fall in love with. Next up, the Packers at 15 are going to take the highest floor receiver in this draft class, Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's an incredible route runner, very shifty guy. I think he will be a very reliable piece in the slot for Jordan Love, and he will complement Christian Watson very well. Next up, the Washington Commanders at 16. They are going to absolutely steal Joey Porter Jr. I think he is a top 10 defender in this draft class, and to get him at 16 is just an absolute steal. He is an insane press corner, probably the best press corner in this draft class, and it just gives the Washington Commanders that number one corner that they desperately need. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right here, Broderick Jones just falls into their lap. He's a very athletic, very high upside tackle. And this pick gives Kenny Pickett the protector he needs for the future. Next up, the Detroit Lions back on the clock. They are going to grab Lucas Van Ness, the edge rusher from Iowa. He is a massive dude. He is an incredible athlete. He is another power rusher, pocket pusher. He is also a great stunt guy. You can run stunts with him or around him. No matter what, he will be the centerpiece of those stunts. And he is a great complement to Aiden Hutchinson on the other side of that defense. Next up, the Buccaneers are going to add a great piece to their terrible O-line right now, Darnell Wright. He is a massive player. He is a great technician for his size, though, and he is a very versatile player. He can play left or right tackle, and he just fills a huge hole on that O-line, on that terrible O-line, and him and Tristan Wirfs can be one of the top tackle duos in the league. Next up, the Seahawks back on the clock. They got their cornerback. They're now going to get their pass rusher in Kalijah Kancey. Kind of an undersized dude, but he is an insane athlete. He's very versatile. You can play him anywhere on the D-line. He is a perfect scheme fit to be that 3-4 D tackle that the Seahawks love. He is a very creative pass rusher, and he will add a ton of athleticism to that Seahawks defense. Next up, the Chargers are going to take Zay Flowers. He is my number one receiver in this draft class. I think he is a very, very reliable guy, very fast. He is primarily a slot receiver, but he can be used in the deep game just because of his speed and how great he is in the air in those contested catch situations. I think he will finally give Justin Herbert a good deep threat and a reliable target that can be a possible Keenan Allen replacement in the future. Next up, the Ravens are going to take their wide receiver one, Quentin Johnson, finally getting your X receiver. Maybe this will help incentivize Lamar Jackson to stay. If not, it gives your future quarterback a great number one receiver, finally getting your weapons for whoever your quarterback is. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings. They are going to take a cornerback. Where is he? There he is. Tyreek Stevenson. He is an athletic. He's not the biggest dude, but he has good size, and he's just a great press man cornerback. He is a great scheme fit for what Brian Flores and the Vikings want to do on defense. And right now, the secondary is just horrible. But this pick gives the Vikings a reliable cornerback and possibly a cornerback one in the future. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take safety Brian Branch. He is a very versatile piece, and he can play safety or nickel corner. He adds just another solid piece to that secondary. Next up, the New York Giants are going to trade back with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to move up to jump the Bengals and Bills, and they are going to draft their left tackle of the future, Dewan Jones. He is huge. He is a mauler on that O-line, and he is very athletic for his size. He has very good pass protection technique, and he is a mauler in the run game. And I couldn't think of anybody else to replace Orlando Brown any better. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys are going to take their Dalton Schultz replacement, Dalton Kincaid. Dalton for Dalton right there. He is one of the best tight ends in the past few years at catching passes over the middle and just finding creases to get open. He shows flashes of Travis Kelce at times, and I think he is just going to be a great piece and a great weapon to add to this already very good offense. Next up, the Buffalo Bills are going to take their right tackle of the future, Anton Harrison. Anton Harrison is very athletic. Although a project, he will plug right into right tackle and be that guy that just replaces Spencer Brown, who has not been great for them the past few years. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to take their left guard of the future, O'Cyrus Torrence. This dude is a mauler in the run game. Big bruiser, glass-eating type of guy that they love. Him paired with Orlando Brown right next to him, they're going to be two of the biggest linemen in the league, and it's just a perfect scheme fit for their power gap run game that they love. Next up, the New Orleans Saints are going to draft a guy right out of LSU, BJ Ojulari. He is one of my favorite prospects in the draft class. He's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, but he is very creative while pass rushing, and he wins a lot. He will be a very reliable number 2 pass rusher, and he can be a future Cam Jordan replacement. Next up, Philadelphia Eagles get their interior rusher of the future, Adetime Adebawore. He lit up the combine and the Senior Bowl, and he has had a great offseason that has boosted him all the way to the first round. This guy is like 280 pounds, and he ran a 4.45 40. This dude is insane, and he will be the perfect fit right next to the massive Jordan Davis. He's an insane athlete, creative rusher, just adds a versatile, athletic piece to this defense. Next up, the New York Giants are going to take their center, John Michael Schmitz. Just got to shore up that offensive line. John Michael Schmitz is the best center in this draft. He's a very good mover in the run game, and he just fits that Brian Daboll scheme greatly. Now, on to round number 2. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to start off round 2 by taking Cam Smith. He is a great press man corner, great scheme fit for what they want to do, and he doesn't have to start right away. I think he is not a day one good starting corner, but that's the beauty of the Steelers defense. They always got guys. He can sit behind Pat Pete, maybe coming on dime packages, and he can develop to be their future number one corner. Next up, the Houston Texans are going to take, there he is, Jordan Addison. He's a very good route runner, very reliable receiver, good hands. Maybe not the best athlete, maybe not the biggest guy, but he is a very consistent and reliable guy who can be your future X receiver and give the quarterback of the future for this Texans, whoever it is, a great target. Next up is the Cardinals. I think they're going to take Myles Murphy. Somehow fell out of the first round. Very, very high potential. Myles Murphy is another strong power rusher, great run stopper, and the Cardinals can just use anybody they can get on this defense. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts are going to take cornerback Julius Brents from Kansas State. He is an incredible scheme fit for what they want to do. Gus Bradley loves running this cover 3 Seattle Seahawks type of defense, and those defenses love tall, long corners. Julius Brents, 6'3", long arms, great footwork. He had the second best 3-cone time behind JSN. He is not the fastest straight line dude, but he will jam you into the sideline. Next up, the Rams are going to take an edge rusher, Will Anderson. That front seven, besides Aaron Donald, is horrific. They have 0 guys, and Will McDonald can be an athletic and bendy edge rusher that can just, help out Aaron Donald, because that front seven is terrible. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks are going to grab a very versatile piece on that O-line, Steve Avila. This guy can play guard, center, tackle, anywhere you need. He is a great mover in the run game, very good zone blocker, and he will just shore up that offensive line that is pretty underrated in my opinion. Next up, I have the Raiders are going to trade back to get more picks. Right now, that defense is one of the worst in the leagues. So they're going to trade back, get more picks, and they are going to trade back with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is eyeing a guy right now who they do not want to miss out on. There we go. Let's get that trade through. And that guy is Kelee Ringo. I have Kelee Ringo projected as more of a safety guy, but he is a very versatile piece. He can play safety, slot corner, outside corner. I think he is the missing piece in that great secondary that can just plug and play anywhere and ensure up that secondary. He is a great press coverage guy, very fast, great athlete. I think he will be a perfect addition to that secondary. Next up, the Carolina Panthers, giving Bryce Young some weapons, are going to take Josh Downs. Very speedy guy, very shifty guy in the slot. He is a great contested catch receiver despite his size, and he gives Bryce Young, again, a very reliable slot receiver. Next up, the New Orleans Saints are going to take their Alvin Kamara replacement in Jahmyr Gibbs, who I have my NFL comp for Jahmyr Gibbs is Alvin Kamara. It is a straight up 1-for-1 replacement, except Jahmyr Gibbs is a little younger. We don't know the Alvin Kamara situation much right now. He may be suspended. He may be traded. He may not even play. We don't know. But Jahmyr Gibbs gives them that replacement that they desperately need. Next up, the Tennessee Titans are going to shore up that O-line and get their Ben Jones replacement in Joe Tippmann. This dude is massive. He's 6'7", one of the biggest centers you'll ever see. Great run blocker, and he is a plug-and-play starter at center or guard. Next up, back-to-back picks. They're both going to be defense for the New York Jets. The first one is going to be Mazi Smith. The second one is going to be Daiyan Henley. I think these two guys are two of the best defensive guys available. I think Mazi Smith is a great run stopper, very developmental pass rusher, but he has all the attributes to be a great pass rusher and add on to that already incredible front seven. And Diane Henley is an incredible athlete, and he will just add even more talent to this incredible defense. Next up is the Atlanta Falcons at pick 44. I have them taking Tank Dell out of Houston. He is a very fast, very technical, very good route runner in the slot. He gives the Falcons a true slot receiver and a dynamic gadget player. Next up, the Packers are going to add even more weapons and take Michael Mayer. He is the best blocking tight end in this class. He has a very very good hands, very reliable receiver, and he gives Jordan Love another weapon. Next up, New England Patriots are going to, they are going to trade down. The New England Patriots see a guy they like, but they believe that they can get him later. So they are going to trade down with the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys are trading up to draft Bryan Bresee. He is a very developmental guy. He's a project, and he's an interior pass rusher, but he is developmental, has all the tools, the size, the athleticism to be great. He just hasn't produced much in college. But if the Cowboys can get the most out of Bryan Bresee, they will have an incredible piece to add that already great pass rush. Next up, the Commanders are going to take the massive 6'7" tight end Darnell Washington. He's pretty much an offensive tackle with wheels at this point. He is massive. He is a great athlete, very, very good blocker, and he can be a mismatch problem. He is still a project, but he will give the Commanders a tight end that they can be hopeful for. He is massive. He can just be that guy that'll bully people on that offense. Next up, the Lions are going to take Emmanuel Forbes. He is another one of my favorite prospects in this class. He fell quite a bit. That's why I think this is a great pick for the Lions, because he can sit a year. He does not have to play the first year. They got guys this year. So he can sit this year, develop even more, get some weight on him, and next year he can be an incredible corner. He has great hands, great ball skills, one of the best zone corners in this class. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to draft Michael Wilson, the receiver out of Stanford. He is a great route runner, very good hands. The reason he's going so low is his injury concerns. I think if he did not get injured these past few years, he would be considered a top 5 receiver in this class. The Steelers have an underrated need at wide receiver 3. Right now, that guy is Calvin Austin, who could be good, but I think Michael Wilson gives a more reliable receiver for Kenny Pickett. Next up, the Raiders at pick 50 are going to take the speedy, the fast, the quickest player in this draft class, DJ Turner out of Michigan. He's an insane athlete, fastest player in this draft, like I already said, and he helps out a terrible secondary. Like I said, the Raiders have one of the worst defenses in the league, getting anybody they can, and I think he will be a huge piece for this defense next year. Next up at pick 51, the Miami Dolphins are going to take Matthew Bergeron. He is the last starting caliber offensive offensive tackle available, and they need to protect Tua as best they can. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks are going to grab a receiver, Jonathan Mingo, right here. I think he is a very balanced receiver. He's not the best at anything, but there's not really anything he's bad at. He was a quick riser because he stood out during the offseason, and I think he can be an immediate starter on the outside. Next up, the first pick for the Bears in the second round, they're going to draft edge rusher Felix Anudike-Uzomah out of Kansas State. He is a power rusher, big guy, another pocket pusher type of guy, and he just adds even more power to that front seven. The Chargers up again. Clark Phillips will be the pick, the slot corner from Utah. I think he just, an immediate starter in the slot for the Chargers. Not much to say, just helping out that secondary. The Lions up again in the second round. They are going to take a tight end, Tucker Kraft. He is the Dan Campbell guy of this class. He got that dog in him, and he fills a massive need at tight end for the Lions. Next up, the Jaguars are going to take a big possession receiver, Cedric Tillman. He will be an immediate wide receiver 4 with starting potential for that O line. Next up, the New York Giants are going to draft a versatile defensive back piece in Jartavis Martin. He can plug in at slot corner or safety. He will be that missing piece for that secondary, though. Next up, where the Patriots traded back to with the Dallas Cowboys, they will draft their guy, Tuli Tuipulotu. He is a very versatile piece. He is very big, 290 pounds, but he can rush from the edge. He can blitz from linebacker. He can be used inside. He can play almost anywhere in the front seven. He is a great Bill Belichick guy. Next up, the Bills at pick 59 will draft a safety, Sidney Jones. He will be the future Micah Hyde / Jordan Poyer replacement. He is a very athletic guy. He can play deep. He can come in the box a little bit. Not a great box player, but he is a very good deep safety, very fast, very athletic guy, and he will be a great replacement for the safeties they have now. Sticking at the safety position, the Bengals will take Antonio Johnson with pick 60. He is another athletic safety, and he is a great box guy. Very good run stopper. Solid cover guy. I think he is very similar to Von Bell, and he will plug right in at strong safety. Next up, the Bears will take their starting center, Luke Whippler. I don't think he will be a great center immediately, but he will be very adequate, and just plug him into that horrible O-line right now to give Justin Fields a little bit more protection. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to draft their future replacement corner, Darius Rush. Very athletic guy, very good size. Not a huge guy, but he's a good size. But he's very physical and can be a matchup with bigger receivers. The Chiefs, with pick 63, are going to take Derek Hall. This guy is jacked. He has great place strength, elite speed, and he has great bend around the edge. And he will be a very good immediate rotational pass rusher. And with the last pick in this mock draft, the Chicago Bears are going to take Kai Blue Kelly. He is very physical and aggressive. He is not very big, not very athletic, but he makes up for that with his incredible technique, and his aggressiveness and physical tendencies can just help him match up with bigger receivers, and he can be that guy to take away those mismatch problems. If you enjoyed that mock draft and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. Hopefully, I will have my first position rankings video out very soon. Again, if you like the video, like and subscribe, and have a great night.